Thank you, Brian. It's a real honor to be here today. Daktronics is a company that's based in Brookings, South Dakota, and while you may not be familiar with our company, if you observed a large video display when you entered the convention center this morning, or maybe if you've attended a Major League sporting event, there's a good chance you may have seen some of our work. At Daktronics, we help our customers inform and entertain an audience, and we do that through large-scale audio and visual communication systems. With this example at the Tampa Bay Times Forum, home of the Tampa Bay Lightning, you can see how we help this customer inform and entertain their audience in a really big way. I always enjoy, after we've completed an installation like this, to attend an event and watch the fans who enter the arena for the first time, and as they see the scale and the size of this display, and their jaw just drops in amazement and disbelief. It's interesting because it's the type of disbelief that can only be matched by the experience when that same individual stands in the concession line and they look up and they see the price of beer for the first time. But even if you don't attend a Major League sporting event, there's a good chance you still see us every day. In the early days of Daktronics, it was actually a local wrestling coach that approached our company and suggested that, it would be really nice to have a scoreboard that was designed specifically for the sport of wrestling, something that would sit along the mat side so the fans and the coaches, they can actually see the scoring without taking their eyes off the action on the mat. And that really was the beginning of the scoreboard business for Daktronics. And from there, we expanded into commercial and transportation applications with products like you see here. And as we combine all the markets that we serve, Daktronics is the largest company in the world focused on LED display systems. We have no competitor that competes across all of our markets. But as great as a position that is, our challenge is how do we compete in each of our individual markets where we still do have strong competition. To accomplish that, I believe we need to design, build, and install our products faster than ever and be much more effective and efficient at how we leverage our technology and product assets across all those markets that we serve. And as we do that and address that challenge, there's some interesting trends. And with Daktronics' experience and the tools from PTC, such as Creo and Windchill, I believe we're in a great position to leverage our assets and capitalize on some of these trends that I'd like to share with you today. First trend is just how we're seeing the size of these display systems, in particular in sporting stadiums, continue to grow year after year. This is an example in Denver where the Broncos play. And in general, our customers here really compete with the experience that can be delivered into our home. In the last several years, we've seen this transition from standard definition video to high definition video. And with that, if you were like me, the size of your television in the home may have increased in size as well. Well, our customers have to compete with that experience, and we see this trend for ever larger displays. To illustrate this point, I'll use some examples from the NFL. Starting with an installation we did for the Minnesota Vikings at the Metrodome more than 10 years ago. Now, the Metrodome was recently torn down as they replaced that stadium, but it's a good starting point to see where the technology was, how large the screens were about 10 years ago, and then I'll quickly step through to what we see today. Here is that display for the Minnesota Vikings, 33 feet wide, 19 feet high, to scale on our screen here today. And we see that to continue to trend to larger displays until we see what we have recently installed for the Carolina Panthers. Now, to give you perspective, this display is just slightly wider than our screen here today. The screen behind me is 180 feet wide by 20 feet high. The Panthers screen is a little wider and 2.5 times taller. And as big as that is, and as much as we thought, how much bigger can these things really become? We had a customer that asked that question and challenged us and said, we'd like to go a little bigger. To give you a perspective and scale, I'm gonna bring the Panthers display down just a tad and illustrate what we're doing for the Jacksonville Jaguars and installing this summer. The Jaguars asked for a screen that is twice the width of the screen behind me and 3 times taller. And if that wasn't amazing enough, they asked for it at a quantity of 2. 1 for each end zone. Our challenge is, how do we deliver these ever larger systems year over year without continuously adding to our engineering staff to keep up with the size and the scale? We leverage Creo with a modular design. Our design block's about 14 inches square that we then can scale with Creo to whatever size our customers want. Another trend I'd like to share with you is our customers' desire for a more unique, custom type iconic display, which really adds to the design complexity. In Times Square, the Coke display, this customer approached us a number of years ago and said, we'd like a display that looks like a large Coke can being crushed. Can you do that? Well, this is one of the first projects that we did where we leveraged 3D CAD tools from PTC, where we could model it up, show the customer, and then when we delivered it, actually deliver a product that looked very similar to what we had modeled to them. As you see here, there's actually 10 different display sections, each with a physical property, a different radius, to create that crushed can type of look, very unique. A more recent example is the Times Tower that is in the LAX airport in the new international terminal. They envisioned a 60-foot elevator shaft that they would dress up much more favorably with a large LED screen that would wrap all four sides. These are just a couple examples. Another one I'd like to share with you with a brief video clip is what we're doing, or have done, for the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. Here's an example where they envisioned a large display they call the Oculus that people would walk underneath as they enter the arena. It creates a 360-degree experience with vertical height variation. The radius varies as we go around. The size and scale of the thing is so large, we cannot assemble it within our own factory. And so we leverage Creo to model and do the test, fit, and function within the lab, so to speak, in Creo. And that's critically important because when we deliver this to site, it must be designed right so that we can install it right the very first time. Because on these large projects, the first time is the only time we ever install them. And some of the early projects that we did with these custom systems were actually the center hung displays like I showed with the Tampa Bay Times Forum. And in those days before 3D CAD tools, we would sometimes test fit these display sections to the structure out in the parking lot in Brookings, South Dakota. And if you've ever been to South Dakota in particular, or in the Midwest in general, you may realize we have two seasons, summer and winter, and summer is about 3 months long. And so, to appreciate that, our engineers really prefer to work in the comfort of the office rather than in the winter time when it can be quite challenging. Let's look at an example more recently then where we are leveraging Creo on a center hung display at the Madison Square Garden. Here we take the display sections which have a custom curve associated with them. We design a standard building block model in Creo that has a flat state. We have a custom curve attribute that we apply, and then we test fit this back to the structure you see here. And as we see this display then come to life at Madison Square Gardens, I really see our vision and our customers' vision that we will see displays continue to get larger. We will see customers asking for more and more complexity in their designs, this idea of a one-of-a-kind iconic display. And they will expect that we can deliver that custom feature at a standard price. I see and I believe that there'll be more and more desire for intelligent displays that can proactively communicate to the customer, to our service organization, proactively when it might need service, because it's critically important at these events that they work perfectly every time. Now, as we imagine a future state, how large and complex can these systems become? That's a great question. I'd like you to join me on a quick journey to Sanya, China. This is a new resort area in China, and imagine that we're sitting on the beach, ideally with a beverage in hand. And as we sit on the beach and look across about a mile of water, we're gonna see this island called Phoenix Island. And on that island, there's gonna be 5 buildings. And on these 5 buildings, we're gonna see something that we've heard about called media architecture, which has been designed, built, and installed by Daktronics. Let's take that journey. I believe with PTC and Daktronics, the sky is the limit. Thank you.